So, what I think of the Maleficent movie when I saw it on Thursday. Basically, Maleficent is a complete recycling of Wicked with a touch of superhero movies. And I called almost all the plot points of that movie roughly around a year ago when I first heard about Maleficent. That just shows you how unexpected this movie's plot is. Before I get into my review, let me briefly explain the plot of Maleficent and also the two goals I had going into the theater. The basic plot of Maleficent is that the story explores what led Maleficent, the villain from the animated classic Sleeping Beauty, to curse baby Aurora. The movie features highlights from the animated classic, but also changes things. So don't expect Sleeping Beauty if you go see it. In this version, Fairyland is called the Moors, and it exists next to the human world, which is ruled by a human king. And this movie doesn't explicitly say it, but there's sort of the stereotype that fairies are good and beautiful and pure and perfect, and humans are greedy and evil and just bad. In the Moors, Fairyland, it is said that they don't need a king or queen to rule themselves, though Maleficent is just sort of the unspoken ruler, even as a child. At a young age, she befriends a young human who crosses the border, and this human's name is, you guessed it, Stefan. Their friendship slowly blossoms into love in Maleficent's eyes, and Stefan gives Maleficent true love's kiss on her 16th birthday. Things happen, and Stefan's greedy betrayal, I'll get to that later, leads to Maleficent becoming the evil sorceress she is, turns her heart into stone, and she curses baby Aurora. Maleficent develops a relationship with the young princess, and the viewer is given the question of, will Maleficent change? Will the curse be lifted? There, brief synopsis. When I went and saw it on Thursday, I had two goals. One, to review it as a retelling adaptation of Sleeping Beauty seen through the eyes of Maleficent, and two, just to review it as a movie itself. Aside from Maleficent, was it even a good movie? If that doesn't make sense, to just kind of take the movie out of its box and just look at it as a piece of entertainment. Because I am a hardcore Maleficent fan, she's my favorite Disney villain, and so I wanted to look at this movie aside from her because I knew that I would hate it as a story of her. So that's why I went with that second goal. So what I mean when it's a recycling of Wicked. In Wicked, Elphaba, the Wicked Witch of the West, East, West, I think it's West. It's embarrassing when you blank out on camera. In Wicked, the Wicked Witch is now named Elphaba, and the story of Wicked explores how the Wicked Witch is not really wicked. She's just kind of misunderstood. She's doing the right thing, but it's what society thinks is the wrong thing, and blah, blah, blah. Maleficent is just like that. It's the whole story of how Maleficent is not really as evil as we think she is. I read an article recently about Maleficent, and it was before Maleficent came out, about a week ago, and so the reviewer did not actually go into much details about the plot, but he just kind of talked about villainy. And so I found it really interesting, and I included a link below. In the article, the reviewer, who I'm forgetting the name of right now, but he mentioned how back when Sleeping Beauty was made, audiences were okay with villains just being evil, just to be evil. Maleficent, in the original movie, chose to be evil because she wanted to. She goes to the party, she's like, you didn't invite me? Screw you, I'm gonna curse your baby. She's just evil because she wants to be. And as the reviewer pointed out, that's what we love about her. We love how wicked she is, and that she won't stop at anything just to be evil and to get her evil way. But I don't understand this whole obsession nowadays that we have in making all villains, not all villains, but in taking villain stories and turning these villains into misunderstood characters that you really should just sympathize with. They're not evil, they're just misunderstood. What? I don't understand why. Why can't we just keep them evil? It's so awesome and it's just so BA. It's just great. Why do we have to mess with it and make them some stupid, some sympathetic sob story villain? I don't understand. That's what the reviewer pointed out. Our perception of villainy has changed. For example, when I read articles about how to write stories, they mention how to write your villain. And they always say, include something that shows the villain is human, you know, that he has some sort of fault, and then you go, oh, you know, he just made some worse mistake and now he's bad, and you sympathize with them. And I understand how that can be good sometimes. You know, it's good to have a character with a lot of depth, but sometimes you just want a character, a villain, who's just evil because she wants to be evil. In the original fairy tale, villains existed, honestly, just to be conflict. Villains existed just to be a source of conflict for the protagonist to move the action of the story. That was literally their only existence, and I know that we have changed since then and we want more to our stories. There are people out there who are evil just because they want to be evil. I mean, I don't want to make a huge assumption here, but I feel like Hitler was not... maybe he had his heart broken at one point and that let him become the leader of the Nazis, but I mean, really, do you think so? I don't know. I just feel it's completely unnecessary and kind of cliche because that's what everyone's doing, especially with Wicked. It's huge, and I see why Disney did that because it's very popular with audiences right now, but really, with one of your best villains, Disney, why would you do that to your own amazing character? I don't understand. Maleficent has said she is the mistress of all evil. She's not the mistress of all misunderstood evil. Can we just keep it simple? Make her the mistress of all evil. She doesn't have to be misunderstood or sympathetic. Come on, come on. Okay, enough about that. I've ranted and ranted and ranted about that. That's the core of my dislike towards this movie. Let's move on to a little more about why I dislike this movie. I mentioned that there's like a touch of superhero movies. What did I mean? Well, in the final battle scene, Maleficent sort of loses that robe cloak thing that she wears, and it reveals her outfit underneath, and it was literally a Catwoman leather one piece. And I laughed out loud because that just looks ridiculous in this movie, and it looks ridiculous on Maleficent, and it just was ridiculous. Also, they give Maleficent her sort of kryptonite. It was a clever idea, it just didn't really work for Maleficent. It was just kind of a pathetic kryptonite for Maleficent. It would work on a different character. Literally, it was a good idea, but it just... In the original movie, Maleficent's kryptonite is love. As Merryweather, Flora, and Fauna explain, she doesn't understand love, and so that's why she wouldn't realize that they would take the baby away and protect her for 16 years. Can't that just be her kryptonite? Why do they have to make it some stupid Superman, hero man, blah, 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 kryptonite? Why can't it just be a abstract concept? Okay, other things I didn't like about Maleficent, the adaptation side of it. Minor spoiler, she does not turn into a dragon. I won't tell you who turns into a dragon because that would be spoiling it, but Maleficent doesn't turn into a dragon. That is the hallmark of the original movie. Honestly, one of my favorite moments. It's why I love Fantasmic, it's why I love Festival of Fantasy Parade, it's why I love anything that has Maleficent as a dragon on it. Pins, merchandise, you name it, I will buy it if it has Maleficent as a dragon on it. So I sat there in the theater and I cried tears of sadness because I was so upset that she didn't turn into a dragon. I really wanted it, and then when I saw the trailers, I was like, yeah, it's kind of a lame dragon design compared to the original. But hey, at least she still turns into a dragon, and no, she doesn't turn into a dragon. Yay, Disney, thank you for destroying that for me. I'm grateful, 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 grateful. As I've said, and I've said this many times before, but again, she does not have green skin, and that's really minor. But the reason she doesn't have green skin, I found out, is because the makeup designer, I believe it was, said they wanted to keep her humanized and relatable to us, and also to keep her pretty and attractive. I just see Angelina Jolie all over that. I'm sorry, but Maleficent is just BA and elegant in the fact that she's not pretty and attractive, she's just like wicked BA, and that makes her attractive to us because we like how wicked she is. We didn't have to make her into a sex symbol, which is another thing I didn't like. This movie sort of turned Maleficent into a sex symbol, and I was like, why? You know, the cat suit, for example, was like obviously very form-fitting to Angelina Jolie, which is not a bad thing, but it just, I didn't want to watch this movie and look at Maleficent like that, you know? Like watching Princess Leia in Star Wars and being like, oh, that's sexy. I didn't want to see Maleficent like that. And it just seemed very, very wrong. Brief note on some of the acting. Elle Fanning seemed a little forced as Aurora. Right when she first appeared, she comes out of this pile of leaves and is just laughing. And it just seemed as if someone put a camera on her and said, laugh! And she just like, you know, when you're not really laughing, you're just laughing to look like you're laughing, and it just looks really bad. It just did not work. And so from that minute on, I was like, eh. I mean, she did well for what she had. I think maybe it was the script and it just didn't give her room to act. I've seen some amazing acting in other movies at the theater at my school, and this just wasn't as good as I was hoping. So the battle scene where the king goes and attacks the Moors. Like I said, Maleficent is kind of the unspoken ruler of the Moors, and so she defends the Moors from the king. And to be honest, that battle scene was extremely pathetic. They built it up to look like it was going to be something really awesome, and it was just like a really small army attacking the Moors, Maleficent basically destroying them by flying around and knocking them with her wings, and her like friend fairy earth creatures defending the Moors as well. And it was kind of like, you idiots, you think about this more before you leave the castle. I mean, really. Okay, so now I've talked about Maleficent in terms of a retelling of the character Maleficent, let's look into how it was as an actual movie. I also strongly disliked it as an actual movie. Why? Overall, it was just really cliche. There's the whole romance element with Stefan and Maleficent. That's just been completely overdone. Personally, I'm sick of romance, but I understand it is a part of human life, and so it sells and it's popular. Sorry, I thought someone was over there. And blah, blah, blah. But really, I didn't really feel like it was necessary in this movie. I don't know. I'm just so tired of romance. That's a personal thing, but come on. Romance isn't everything. Why? Why did it have to be that her backstory had to do with romance? You know, it's just like anything these days. The whole idea of Stefan breaking her heart and that hardens her, that's kind of cliche. I've seen that before. A recent example that I can think of is Oz the Great and Powerful. This movie was kind of, actually, now I think about it, it was kind of a recycling of Oz the Great and Powerful too, which Oz the Great and Powerful did not do well, and so I think Disney was like, hey, let's kind of combine this and Wicked and superhero movies, and we've got a seller right there. I mentioned I would talk about how Stefan betrays Maleficent. After the battle scene with the king, the human king wants to be avenged, and so he orders his like 5 top knights to go kill the winged fairy, or winged elf I think he says. And so Stefan goes, and he sees Maleficent, and she's like, where have you been all this time? Because, yeah, he just, like, basically ditched her. And he's like, they're gonna kill you, you have to trust me. And she does, even though she hasn't seen him in forever. And obviously there's a stereotype of them being greedy, but she just kind of ignores that because she loves him. And then he gives her a drink, which puts her to sleep. And then he pulls out his dagger, and he tries to kill her, but he just can't because he loves her too. Because he can't kill her, he decides to cut off her wings. Yes, she has wings in this part. Also, did not like them because they looked like griffin wings and just did not belong. She does not have to have wings. Fairies don't always have wings. In the original fairy tale, she did not have wings. She looked like an old lady. Okay, point made. The one thing that bugged me about how Stefan betrays Maleficent was that whole scene was sort of a metaphor for rape. And that's okay in an adult movie, but in a family-friendly movie, and it was kind of something that Disney just kind of brushed under the rug and was like, oh, if you don't really think about this, you won't realize that, but if you think about it, you can realize it kind of is like rape, because for Maleficent, her wings are what define her. They give her the freedom and her independence, and it's kind of a feminist movie, and so when Stefan cuts off her wings, he's basically taking her, you finish that sentence, but you know what I'm talking about. And so it was okay, I guess. I just, watching it and thinking that, I was like kind of disturbed that Disney would use that, and I don't know. It was just kind of dark. I wasn't expecting Disney to do that. I've ranted and slammed this movie a lot. What did I actually like? If I did like anything, I did. So let me talk about that. Angelina Jolie as Maleficent. I said a long time ago that I was really upset and would not like her. Actually, I did. I liked snippets of her. There were parts that I just did not like. By the way, I did notice that her accent seemed to go on and off, especially at the coronation scene. She seemed very British, very Eleanor Audley, and then the rest of the scene, it was kind of toned down English, I guess. I was just like, wait, all of a sudden your accent is going up and down. It was weird. So I guess I said I would pay $10 to anyone if I end up liking this movie, and I did like Angelina Jolie's performance after I said I would absolutely hate it. So if you really want $5, I'll pay you $5. I think that's fair. As I said, I did like some of the interpretation of Maleficent's character. I'll get to that a little bit. I'll dig into that a little deeper in just a second. Let me go down this list a little longer. Okay, visuals. There were actually some really cool shots, like cinematography was pretty cool, and there were some pretty cool shots of the Moors, but overall it seemed kind of visual heavy and story/plot weak. Very much like Oz the Great and Powerful. So I liked it and I disliked it because it was too strong sometimes, but it was pretty impressive. I heard the people who worked on Avatar worked on this movie, and you can definitely see it. In the movie, Maleficent still has her raven. His name is not Diablo as revealed in Kingdom Hearts. Instead it is Diavel. I did like their relationship. It worked. He was kind of like the comic relief, and he was sort of like the non-evil side of her, and he was trying to bring out that side of her, and it kind of worked. And it was humorous at times, but sometimes he was too nice, so it wasn't perfect, but it was okay. It worked, I guess. So I talked about what I didn't like, what I sort of liked. I just want to throw out there real quick what I think could possibly make this movie, could have possibly made this movie better. That's the frustrating thing for me. This movie could have been really good if they had really kept true to the character and made a really good backstory for her. They could have put in a backstory. I think it's unnecessary, but whatever. Obviously, that's what the plan was. If they had put in like an actually good original background that showed her as just being evil, sorry guys, but that's just how I think of it, I would have been okay with that. Let me talk about it a little more. In many of the trailers, there are shots of Aurora and Maleficent talking, because the two form a relationship. Aurora doesn't know who Maleficent is, and Maleficent does, and it's kind of funny. Aurora's like, oh, we're like BFFs, and Maleficent's like, no, we're not. Like, you don't know who I am, but I know who you are, and I know who I am, and how our relationship actually is, and it's awkward if you knew that. So in the trailers, they have shots where Maleficent and Aurora are talking. And at first when I saw that, I was really upset, and I showed it to TDM, and I was like ranting to her. I was like, this is so stupid, like, she's not supposed to see Aurora ever, like, why are they doing this? And then we talked about it, and I realized that maybe they were portraying Maleficent as this really manipulative villain who met Aurora and was like telling her there's evil in this world, beware of it. And then at the end, she's like, ha 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 ha, it's actually me, and tricks her into, it like just very manipulative. And I think that would have been really original. It would have stayed true to the character being evil, and it would have been interesting to see, because it would have still worked well, because they could have kept Aurora naive and innocent-like, and kept Maleficent very sly and manipulative. And those were the parts I liked about Jolie's performance as Maleficent, when she was a sly, manipulative villain, but they were just so few and short that I was just really disappointed. Okay, I think that's everything that I had to say. Looking at this, I covered all my points. I am not the best speaker about things I don't like. I have strong opinions and I can rant to you about them, but talking to talking to an empty camera and no one else in the room is a little hard for me, especially when it's something I don't like. So it was really hard to make this vlog. I hope it came out okay. Tell me what you think of it and what you thought of Maleficent. In short, my two bits is that this movie is not worth the ticket. It's awful in my opinion, as I've explained. If you really want to see it though, I would wait till Redbox or Netflix when it's cheaper, and then just don't watch it again, because it's just not worth it. I'm hoping that it will be a really bad failure, and then Disney will just kind of brush it aside like they've done with Lone Ranger, and I'm hoping it never gets nominated for an Oscar. This is just me hating this movie, I'm sorry, and I just hate it. That's just life. The sad part is that I won't be able to watch Sleeping Beauty, literally my second favorite Disney movie. I won't be able to watch it without looking at Maleficent in a different view, and it'll be an upset view of they ruined you and I still love you. It's just so sad, and I'm
I'm gonna be so upset for the next month watching that movie, and it's Disney, why did you have to ruin this movie for me?
Minnie Maleficent didn't make an appearance. I'm sorry. She's not even here. She saw it. She didn't like it. Okay.